Hey, I'm the Wolfman.
And I'm AD Venture.
Thank you so much for tuning in. So, as all of you know, when you're out in the outdoors, one of the best and most beautiful things you can do is have a fire. Fire goes back tens of thousands, maybe even millions of years in human history. It's a source of warmth, it's a source of chemical reaction to make food, it can do so many things. In a survival situation, having a fire can mean the difference between life and death, simply because of the psychological aspects of having a fire, giving you the concept that you're going to make it. So what I have here in my hand is a little military match holder, and it has some really amazing features. Now these ones are really difficult to find. Not everybody can find them. But what you can find in most of your hardware stores is one of these. So you want to tell us a little bit about that one right there? Because they look the same.
They're almost identical. Now the only difference, apart from being blaze orange as opposed to an olive drab color, is that underneath the cap, you normally do not have what this one would have here.
Okay, well let's take a closer look at that and see if this is the right product for you.
Okay, so here we have the two different types of matchboxes. We've got the more rare olive drab matchbox, and we've got the blaze orange matchbox. Now this one here is a lot more difficult to find, as Wolf mentioned, but let's take a look at the features. Now you'll notice it's nice and sturdy with a twist top, but at the bottom you actually have a little rod that you can use for striking. Now another very cool feature that you cannot find on this model here is this. That's actual sandpaper that will allow you to strike your match and quickly get it lit. Unfortunately, this model here does not come with that option. As you can see, it's just the plastic. Now, what we're planning in this particular video is to modify this one here to be identical to this one. And it'll be very simple, just to get a little bit of sandpaper and to glue it onto the top of this cap. So let's actually take a look at the different types of sandpaper that we can use for this project. All right, what we have here are two different types of sandpaper. We have a more gritty sandpaper at 80. And we have a finer type of sandpaper, which is 180 grit. It's always recommended that you try this out with your matches before you use this for your project, just to see whether or not your matches will work with this type of sandpaper. So let's give this a shot here. Now let's give the finer sandpaper a try. Now as you can see, these particular sandpaper, these particular matches work a lot better with the finer grit sandpaper than they do with the grittier sandpaper. But then again, that does rely on this type of match. If you have different matches, they may work better with the grittier type of sandpaper, but that is something that you'll have to try out for yourself. Now let's take a look on how to modify this sandpaper for your new Matchbox project. What we've done here is we've laid out our 180 grit sandpaper. What we're going to do is we're going to take the cap from the Matchbox that does not have the sandpaper underneath the cap itself, place it right over your sandpaper. Now you can take a pen and just draw around, or you can take a regular cutting utensil and just cut around, score the shape, and once it's scored, you can cut it out properly. Okay, so we've cut out our little piece of sandpaper, 180 grit here, perfectly aligned for the cap. But most importantly, we actually have a nice strong glue, an adhesive that we can use to stick this to the bottom of the cap. I usually recommend something very strong, something like this, an epoxy, not a regular type of glue, because they'll easily come off from all the striking that you're going to be doing. So what you do is you just take your little circle there, take your glue. You don't want too much of an excess of glue, you just want just a little bit. Try to get the edges. And now what you're going to do is just take the sandpaper, place it right in here, and apply a little bit of pressure. Now what we have is a cap that has a perfectly working striking section hidden right underneath the actual top. As you can see here, we finally finished our project, added the sandpaper underneath the cap, and it's now almost identical to the rare surplus store Matchbox. What we're going to do now is we're just going to place the cap down, put a little pressure, get our match, and we'll get it lit. And that's how you modify a simple Matchbox to do everything that the military surplus option can do. And as we just mentioned, you can see that you can find these little ferrocium rods right on the bottom of these little Matchboxes. Now, you can try them out with a little cotton ball to see how they function. As you see, we're getting a little spark here. There we go. But I will tell you one thing. From my personal experience, I know of several people who've tried to use this and the ferrocium rod has come right on out. So what you want to do is you always want to practice with this to see what kind of sturdiness it has and see whether or not you'll need an additional ferrocium rod with you.
What an awesome little modification to turn something that's a little bit more challenging to find into something that's very, very easy to find. Now this one, of course, is Army Green, and as you can see, AD Ventures there is the Rescue Orange color. Now, Cody Lundeen, in one of his books, recommends that you actually keep matches in a brighter colored container. The reason he recommends that is because if I drop this and it rolls down a hill, I mean, look at the color of it. If that rolls down a hill and hides behind a rock on its way, I'm not going to see it. But what do you think is going to happen with that Blaze Orange one there? If that rolls down a hill, even if it gets dirty, you're going to still be able to see it. So something to consider depending on where you're going and what you're doing, what color you want, especially if if it gets lost. You might also want to use this as well for other objects you can put in it. You could put some cotton balls in there. You could put anything that you really needed in there to help you survive. So I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I'm the Wolfman.
And I'm AD Venture.
Please consider subscribing.